My name is Helle Englesman. I'm the Metro North Graduate Recruitment Coordinator. I've been here for quite some time now, so we're very dedicated to our grads here at Metro North. We run a Metro North process, so the process is the same no matter where you go in Metro North, which is really important to remember. We are a large health service, but it doesn't matter whether you apply for somewhere like Redcliffe or the Royal Brisbane. The process is exactly the same. Our expectations of our grads are exactly the same no matter where you go. Okay? What are we looking for in a grad? We're actually looking for a safe practitioner. We don't expect you to be an expert. We are here to help and support you, but what we do expect you to be is safe, that you know what you can do and that you know that there are people around to support you and help you. Okay? Do not think of yourself as an island. This is a big change. From our perspective, moving from a student to a graduate is an enormous change. You've been in all these places as third years, but we are suddenly asking you to function independently without somebody looking over your shoulder. But that doesn't mean you are alone. I expect that you will be a good patient advocate, that you won't sit back on your hands, that if you see something that needs to be fixed, you'll actually bring it to somebody's attention. I expect that you will be prepared to ask and that you are prepared to learn. Do not expect learning opportunities to come to you. You need to be aware of what is happening around you. And, you know, it can be as simple as, I've actually never seen that procedure. Could I please come and watch? Could I come and help? Could I learn about this? That's how you learn. It's very easy to get caught up in your patient allocation. And whilst I expect that all practitioners will look after their patient allocation, that doesn't mean that you can't swap with somebody with patient allocation next to you so that you can learn a new skill. Okay? At Metro North, as a graduate, you will actually, after orientation, we have clinical facilitators. They may have different names in different organisations, but their job is to support graduates. They roam around. They have several graduates to look after, but they roam around. They will come and work with you. They will come and help you make sure that you have access to the skills that you now need to learn to be a functioning independent practitioner. So they will come around and make sure you've done enough cannulations, enough dressings that need in particular areas that might need to be done before you're able to do those independently. They're also there for you to phone and say, I've got something new to do, could you come and help me? Okay? You'll also have nurse educators. You've got NUMs, you've got clinical nurses, you've got graduates from previous years. That is our support network for you, and we want you to utilise that support network. Okay? So we're looking for a grad who recognises their scope of practice and has the confidence to be prepared to say, I can't do something, and has the confidence to be prepared to say, my patient needs something. Okay? That we just don't willy-nilly follow an instruction without actually thinking about the person who's in the bed, or if you're a midwife, the woman who's coming in for her birth, or in neonatology, the baby, that, you know, that this is a whole practice, okay? Don't be afraid to speak up, but don't be overconfident. That's probably what we want, okay? When you apply for a position in Metro North, we interview. Everybody has to come for an interview. There is no way of getting a position without an interview. Okay? You must complete an eligible application on the graduate portal to be considered. We do not accept direct applications. Job interviews. We recognise that there will be people out there who've never had a job interview. So the idea is not to make this the scariest thing that you ever do. Okay? Our panels are very much aware of different nerves. Some people are very nervous, some people aren't. A bit of nerves is a good thing. Okay, it keeps you on your toes. Job interviews aren't meant to be daunting. They're only actually 20 minutes long. The preparation for your interview and the paperwork we ask to bring takes longer than the interview itself. Interviews are usually only 3 questions. One will be a written question, and then there will be 2 other questions. These are behavioural-based questions. They are meant to be questions that you can relate to what you've done in your placements. But it's not to say that that always works. Sometimes we will ask a question that you have never come across, and that is perfectly all right. Okay, what you need to do is be telling the panel that you have never had this type of an experience. If you've had the experience somewhere else, should we ask, I'll just use an example, a conflict question. And the type of question we ask is not something you've ever come across in a clinical area, but it is something you've come across perhaps in your part-time job. Then tell the panel that that is where your answer is coming from. It doesn't matter that it's a non-nursing example, just that we know that that's where you're coming from when you answer it. Now, I often ask, the example I often give is, you know, how would you manage somebody who's aggressive and whatever else? And you may never have had that in your placement. But if you work for McDonald's, you may have dealt with the drunk at 3 o'clock in the morning more than once. So tell us that's where you're coming from, okay? If we ask you a question you've never been exposed to, that's okay as well. Don't let it floor you. Just tell the panel that you have never been exposed to this, but if I had, this is what I would have done. It's a perfectly reasonable response. Whilst we've written questions for a long time, we can only write them for 95% of the people who come for interview. There will always be students who have not been exposed to something, so don't let it floor you. Just make sure you tell the panel where you are coming from when you answer that question. Okay? And they aren't long, they are only 20 minutes long. The panel will ask you other questions, but they're more about the getting to know you type of questions and to ease your nerves and for you to get to know them. Okay, so don't be floored if they ask you, you know, why have you chosen nursing or something. It's a conversation starter and it's not a right or wrong response. Okay. We are fairly strict with our interviews, and you probably need to know that we don't give an opportunity to change them once we're set. Okay. We have a very strict, we interview for a whole month and there is not scope for you to be saying, I don't want to come on Wednesday, I'd rather come on Friday. So you need to know that. And that's very important in the scheme of things. If we set an interview, you need to come. You also need to bring everything that we ask you to bring. It makes a big difference, one, to the impression that you set the employer for the job that you really want to do. Don't think that just because we ask for something, that doesn't mean you have to bring it. Because if 2,000 other people can bring it, then you can too. All right? Don't be blasé about this interview. You are competing with a lot of people. And whilst Metro North will give a large amount of graduate positions, you are still competing with a lot of people, and we want you to do as well as you possibly can. Okay? If you are ill, then you need to let somebody know beforehand, because we want you to do the best you can. So don't roll in feeling, oh, I feel really sick. Let somebody know beforehand and we will see what we can do. You know? This is really important, and from a Metro North point of view, this is about you. This is about us being able to get the best we can out of you, okay? If you can't shine and are under the weather, then you don't give us the best side of you at interview. Okay? If you get a position, then you can expect there will be tremendous changes in your first 6 months, okay? One, you get used to shift work. Do not think that getting used to shift work is not a big deal. It is a big deal. the changes in your body clock, all those sorts of things, the getting used to those really unsociable hours that are very different from being a student, because you think about suddenly you're on night duty and there's only 3 or 4 people, those sorts of things. You need to be able to get your sleep, you need to adjust. There's also that huge learning curve you're not now taking, because we expect you all to do transition. So in Metro North, our grad positions are 7 shifts a fortnight. One, that lets us employ more grads, but the other is it gives you an opportunity to adjust to shift work, manage transition, but work out work-life balance. They're all really important things to learn. You will be expected to look after your patients, to be accountable for that care, to have a voice, to speak up, be their patient advocate, all those sorts of things. What else would I expect out of you in your first 6 months? I would expect by the end of 6 months that you are not fully confident, but you feel more confident than you did. Okay? I do not expect at the end of 6 months that you know everything, that you can go it alone, because you can't. Even someone with 30 years experience can't go it alone. At no stage do we ever expect you to be the expert. Okay? So please remember that it doesn't matter how experienced you are, the support is always there. I expect you to have learned. I expect you to be more confident. I don't expect you to be asking the same questions that you did on your very first day of practice 6 months down the track, but I expect those questions to be different. Now you're looking to expand your knowledge rather than just consolidate skills. So again, you're not to be afraid to ask questions to get support, but look at what you're asking. If 6 months down the track you're still asking the same question you asked on the first day, then I will have some concerns, okay? But I do expect you to ask questions. We are committed to a lifelong learning process here, so we do want you to constantly be learning. We want you to learn new skills. We want you to develop skills. We want you to gain the confidence to be able to help and support others who are coming in and new. Okay? But just remember that you are not an island, and that in Metro North, this is about supporting you and building your confidence and getting you to a stage where you do feel confident that should something happen, I actually know what I need to do to manage it. I don't need to manage it. I need to know what to do to be able to manage it. And if that means I need to be able to call somebody else, well, that's perfectly all right. At least you're able to recognise that this is something I don't have the skills to manage, but that I know who has those skills. And that's what I expect of a grad at the end of 6 months. And Metro North will support you to get there. Thank you for your time.